Absolutely. Row your boat. All right, we're live, gentlemen. Welcome, Shaun. Joe, welcome. How are y'all?
Hey, buddy. Good, good. How are you guys?
Good. Hard for anybody to miss. Shaun's current pursuit is Vitalik. So we'll.
I just think that CZ is a dead man walking, as far as I'm concerned. So on to the next criminal.
Yeah, I wonder with like C. I was thinking about CZ the other day with him being Canadian and all, and I'm wondering that I mean, what are his next moves at this point? I mean, I don't think he's as like easy a target for American regulators as say if he were, you know, Chinese or something, or Iranian or Russian. It's kind of an interesting one because it's outside of U.S. jurisdiction, but it's it's the closest country to us, I think.
Yeah, I think we're waiting for DOJ to take action. I think that, like all joking aside, I think his day in this game has come to an end. I think even if Binance survives, I think part of a deal is he gets to sail off into the sunset. So I think his day is done. I know he's a lot of fans who follow his bullshit on Twitter, but I think it's good for the space. So whether he ends up in a jail or not, I probably don't wish that on many people, and probably not on him, if I'm to be honest. But he's gone. I think. What consequences he's gone from the space? What consequences he faces? That's between him and the land of the free, I guess.
Yeah, land of the free. land of the free. Land of the set up fake SEC approved companies for congressional hearings. Land of the free. Let me quickly, before we get into the topic of discussion today, Shaun, I want to quickly talk about this charade at the congressional hearing yesterday. The Democrats pulled out, or Gensler, somebody pulled out as a testimony at the hearing, the CEO of a company called Prometheum. And I tweeted that, the arrogance of Gensler and Warren is pretty epic when you consider the fact that they really thought that no one would actually take a deeper look at these folks. So Adam Cochran did us the favor of a deep dive on these guys. And I'm just going to try to highlight a few things here. But so this Prometheum is supposedly the first special license for digital assets broker dealer in the United States. And his testimony was all around how everyone else is a loser and a failure and will not be able to trade anything. And they, in their classification, are the only ones in the United States that will be able to. And it's the only way, it's the right way, blah, 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 blah. Right. So here's the Prometheum story, because this is just, it's just so good. They started in 2017, filed a Reg A plus, and aimed to raise $50 million. And it's a bunch of attorneys. Three of them are a father and two sons. And it said, how did these random lawyers supposedly get approval from the SEC and FINRA? It said, look no further than their team. So their entire team are New York Stock Exchange, FINRA, SEC, CBOE, all the buddies. I mean, and we talk about that all the time, right? I mean, everybody uses these regulators to set them up for the real money in their next career. And that's exactly what this looks like. So around 2017, they did a Reg A plus filing to issue a token in 2017, have not launched their product since 2017, have a bunch of former SEC FINRA staff suddenly appear at a hearing parroting political talking points favoring the SEC. I'm not going to play the video, but the guy was actually reading the notes in answer to a question that he was given. So he had a card to tell him what to say when a question was fed to him to be asked, right? And it's
or when a particular question,
exactly
an exact question, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So he knew the answers ahead of time. That's what you're saying. Yeah,
he got his exam questions before the exam.
Excellent. Exactly. It was better than an open book. Anyway, so he appears and Adam went back into the Wayback Machine and found their old website that's been scrubbed now, talking about their launch of their token, and they've scrubbed
Their
social
ICO?
media, and that
Their
their
ICO?
yeah, for their ICO, and their blockchain was going to launch in 2019. Their Genesis block was going to start in 2019. If you search through by year through Google, there's a lot of PR around them. They closed oversubscribed $15 million round. Wait a minute, let me see what that was. Until the end of 2020, early 2021, where they claimed to be SEC regulated and raised $15 million, which means they got their approval under Jay Clayton and not Gensler. And then their PR leaned on the commission statement saying they were broker-dealers allowed to hold and custody digital assets. But even to date, it acknowledges it can't clear or settle transactions, and therefore, even though it is registered, it cannot operate. So yesterday, one of the congressmen, I feel bad, I don't have his name, actually grilled the guy at the end of the hearing and said, okay, can your clients trade Bitcoin with you? And he said, no. And he said, can they trade Ethereum with you? And he said, no. And he said, what can they trade with you? And he said, nothing. And so it's like, so what the fuck is your purpose here? So yeah, they say in their website, the firm is limited in the products it can offer. I would call that fucking beyond limited. You can't do a friggin' thing, but you managed to raise $15 million for doing nothing. Then they went silent until late 21 to early 22. Of course, they hire some more FINRA and SEC staff with no product, but they're hiring people because they got money in the bank. And they get the approvals they wanted for what they announced at the thing, I think, which was the digital assets. Now, they fundraise with Wang Zheng, which is a purported CCP affiliate, and they raised $48 million without a product. They hire former SEC and FINRA people, and they pay $1.5 million to Network One Financial Securities. So who is Network One Financial Securities? They are a shady broker with a Chinese affiliated firm and a horrible compliance track record of more than 20 regulatory or civil actions against them. So we're already a shining star of regulatory.
Glad we're classing it up now on the hill, bringing in the top tier dogs.
But Adam says it gets better. That broker was the one behind the Iced Tea Company. Remember that, Joe? The Iced Tea Company that pivoted to be a blockchain project back in 2017 during the ICO crap. So that was their broker. And then another blockchain pivot that the SEC eventually charged for fraud. It's probably where they got their relationship with the SEC people they hired. In 2022, again, mostly quiet until they announced that they've launched their ATS. They claim that their ATS supports digital asset securities, including Flow, Filecoin, The Graph, Compound, and Cello. Of course, since none of these are securities, they can't trade them or use them or do anything with them. Not to mention the fact, which Adam points out in a minute, several of those are in the SEC's list of securities that Binance and Coinbase are offering as unregistered securities. And they claim that they were integrated with Anchorage Digital Bank. Nobody has ever heard of Prometheum. They claimed where they offered the tokens was in 2022. The Bloomberg article from earlier where they said they don't have an offering, can't clear and settle, and hope to list assets in the future was from May of 2023. So launched ATS in 2022. Why in 2023 are they talking about intent to launch and their hands being tied? Why are they suddenly showing up as a congressional witness? Why are the tokens they listed, many of them the same tokens the SEC has now first listed in their actions against Coinbase and Binance? There are three possible answers, and I love this summary. One, these are plants who are being given a sweetheart regulatory deal in exchange for engaging the way the SEC wanted to, just like Gary was working on with SPF. Two, these guys are using their SEC and FINRA connections to push an agenda to get certain assets deemed securities and for them to be the only approved player to capture market, probably that one, both of them. And number three, these guys are grifters who raised a ton of money from sketchy sources and for years have been twisting worst and progress to continue to ride the grift. He said, I don't know which one it is, but something is rotten here. With all of their efforts, Coinbase, Kraken, and other reputable firms have put into putting their best foot forward. It is impossible to believe this sketchy agency got the green light. Anyway, he said, even though a cursory glance shows you that this is not someone you should greenlight, especially not as the first in the space. So what I love about this is that the arrogance of Gensler and the arrogance of Warren allowed them to set up this whole scam in Congress for testimony, and they just thought they'd get away with it. Nobody'd ask any questions. Nobody'd find out who this firm is. But evidently they haven't been paying attention to what people do on Twitter in crypto, because, you don't get away with shit in this space. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting. I wanted to get into that, but
can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So from across the pond,
yes,
where it's officially, by the way, melting temperature of Irish people here, like we're all basically melting. So taking out all of this, and
wait, how hot is that? How hot is that? How hot is that?
Like, dude, I literally had to buy an air conditioner yesterday, and I know everyone in America has air conditioners. We don't have them here.
Wait, what's the temperature?
Well, it's like 28 degrees C. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
28 C.
I am.
It's like high 80s, isn't it?
82. Well, that's not
82,
too bad.
yeah.
That's toasty.
Yeah.
You guys get all humid there like we do, right?
Dude, I am melting. If I went outside, I would literally melt. It's fucking ridiculous.
See, now you know why the beer's cold in America.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I lived for years and years out in the Middle East in Texas, and I never felt so warm because we had air conditioning.
Yep.
Yeah, you had dry heat in Texas.
Yeah, and when out in the Middle East, I was in a place called Bahrain for 3 years, and it's like, I know, 4 million % humidity. But you had air conditioning. So it was cool.
Right. Welcome.
Here's the question. Okay.
Welcome to the 2000s.
Oh, damn it. Here's the question. Okay. Like, isn't the argument here really just a simple one of how you define a security or not?
Sure. Absolutely.
So if we take out all of the bullshit, and again, I make it 100% clear, I'm no fan of regulators.
I feel like I'm getting set up, but go ahead.
No, or even government. No, this is a genuine thing, because you can boil down this thing that's going on in the States. It affects all of us sitting around the world looking at our net worths devalue. Yes. Okay. And you can break this down and go, look, it's a question of what's a security or not. And then ultimately we've this 1930s law called the Howey test, or not law, precedent, whatever the fuck it is. Okay. And that's really the only issue at stake here.
Right. Is it an investment in money in a common enterprise with the expectation of profit, or to be derived from the efforts of others?
Okay. And how do you believe that your government is going to write something better than that? Which I'm not saying is great.
Well, I mean, the hope is that the laws and the governance around securities gets altered to match what's possible with crypto/blockchain.
Are we? And I'm using the we again, sitting here in a normally a wet rock off the coast of Europe. Are we looking for a free pass on the securities laws, or are we looking for a change in the securities laws, or a change in definition of securities?
Well, my advocacy would be is look for a free pass and take what you get, right? Because the best in politics always push to the extremes, so they get somewhere in the middle. But the most feasible, ideal outcome in my mind is legislation that governs. I will tell you, I was listening to a show yesterday about this new McHenry-Thompson bill, right? Two Republicans, and everybody knows I'm not a Republican, but I will say that while there are a number of things that are very wrong with it in terms of kind of how things are timed and how they're done, et cetera, and rules around when you can write code and can't write code that just show a lack of kind of knowledge and need to be changed. The ideas that they had there, I mean, there are things in this bill like before the project is decentralized, with definitions of that, for the 12 months preceding, there are limitations on sales of the tokens and promotions of the tokens, like it is for securities and IPOs, et cetera. And it is considered a security during that time frame. But after that time frame, if all of the new rules for what decentralization means, what blah, blah, blah means, then it becomes a commodity with the CFTC. Now I'm dumbing this down completely, but the bottom line was I'm actually pretty friggin' impressed with how far they went with this thing to actually say, what can we do? What can we do to try to keep up the facade that the SEC is actually trying to protect people while still...
Okay, but that's a separate issue, man. I mean, I'm not, I mean, again, I'm kind of going, look, we can say Gens is an asshole. He clearly is. You know, I'm not against that, but I'm going, you know, there's a couple of things that I question, and fundamentally, you know, what it appears to me is that if it's decentralized, it's a commodity. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I have a problem with a bunch of old suits sitting in some Congress building somewhere trying to determine what decentralization is.
Sure.
When within the space, none of us can agree.
Correct. I totally agree with where you're coming from on that. And of course, I would assume that would be your position, because you would fundamentally say that the protocols on top of Ethereum are not decentralized because you don't feel like Ethereum is decentralized.
No, it's just not decentralized to me. I mean,
okay.
we settled that last week.
We did this last week.
And you know, one thing, Brad, I was just going to weigh in is that it seems to me like, you know, why did we ever get to this security versus utility debate? It was all about the ICO fundraising process and whether it fit into like the Howey test. You know, nowadays and just from what you just said about the legislation from the two Republicans, they're separating it, you know, from the process of raising money when it, I guess, is a security to post that event when then it's not. It's a utility or a commodity or something else. To me, I think that's kind of getting to where it starts making sense, because nothing just being there, like when they go, oh, Cardano's a security, they're not saying it's for anything they did now. You know, it's for stuff they did back in 2017 or 2018.
Yeah.
Okay. So to me, I'm like, I think this, you know, I think that legislation you mentioned is, you know, is going a long way to sort of breaking that down, because it's almost like all the talk of securities in, you know, 2023 is mooted because none of them are anymore.
Right. Right. And look, there is legislative precedence for this, right? Joe, you have more expertise on this than I do, but you know, the Jobs Act and the other acts that attempted to try to open the doors to investments by other types of investors into small firms in the United States kind of was like, you know, it's kind of like the lead up legislation to where I think this ends up. So I think
that's kind of you're going qualified investor route, because that's a dangerous route to take for this space.
Well, I guess, and I definitely don't want to see that crap, right? I mean, we have these antiquated laws around who's allowed to invest and not invest, and you know my opinion on the nanny state when it comes to what I get to do with my money. But I hope that's not the path they'll go with this, and they won't include that. I haven't heard anybody say anything about this legislation. I really
I think
but it's like
this is something.
Pages.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think this is something that is actually an issue, because I do think that we may get what we want, or you may get what you want and live to regret it for a very, very long time.
It's very possible. It's very possible. Look, I think here's the thing. I think whatever happens with the legislation, there will be companies that try to fit into that. I would assume that probably almost everything on Coinbase's L2 base would end up in that world. And then there will still be plenty of people from around the world outside of the U.S. and probably some in the U.S. trying to be a non that will not follow that process and legislation, right? And so, you know, I think we're going to end up, Joe, I think you talk about this a lot. We're going to end up in this world where there, maybe Chuck has said this too, where there is the renegades and the U.S. compliant folks and the people who are compliant with laws in other countries, the UK or whatever. And we have this mix and match thing where the end user can decide where they want to be, right? Which that's the market, right? Deciding like, okay, I don't feel safe anywhere else. I only want to go with the US firms that have done it under this law. Great. You go invest in those. You want to work under the UK laws? Great. You want to work on people who don't even care about any of the laws? Put your money there. It's your call.
Yeah, like the casino, it's almost like this junk paper or junk debt, junk bonds. There's like, and I'm not trying to say they're bad, like junk protocols, where you can go, where it's high risk, high reward.
Right.
And most of the time you lose. Or you can go, like you said, in other jurisdictions that, maybe there's unique advantages to doing that depending upon where you're from. Or, play U.S. compliance. I mean, the point you brought up about the Jobs Act, Brad, that's that was attempting to equalize sort of the IPO allocation process to unaccredited investors. And it was all kind of, I mean, yes, Bitcoin was already going, but it was before all of this. And then when it was out there, basically enterprising chaps like out in in San Francisco area, started essentially realizing they could use that as a way to raise money. And that's where a lot of the first kind of big tokenized things came out at that point. So I think, like the pendulum swinging back and forth, I think there's always going to be the openings there for unaccredited regular folk, just as there is accredited. And you might have to go into the other markets to get those, outside of the US, and play higher risk, higher reward. But I think it's going to segment out fairly efficiently.
All right. I would hope so. By the way, a buddy of mine helped write that legislation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he had a co-working space in Miami. And then sadly, at about like the age of 38, dropped dead of a heart attack. So anyway.
Hey.
Yeah.
Not a good
before
time.
we jump into actually what Shaun wanted to talk about today, I did find some early photos of the first meeting of Elizabeth Warren's anti-crypto army. So I wanted to put that up real quick so everybody could take a look at it. Hold on one second.
Oh yeah, we got to see this.
Loaded up because this is important. I mean, it's obvious that this is a spirited group. They they're really trying to bring good to the world. And if I
wish we could get some of them on the show.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I'd love to see how they like kind of present, if they're like rabid or if they're like, articulate, and what their arguments are.
Let's see. What do you think from this photo I'm about to post? You can tell me if you think they're going to be. Can you see that on your phone?
Yeah, but that's your girlfriend, man. I want to see the rest of the people.
Well, it's her anti-crypto army.
Yeah, I don't know. That just, I could see how that imagery just sort of triggers a lot of people out there. It's sort of like if you understand that a lot of like, say the fundamentalist crew is very just doesn't like women telling them what to do. I don't know how to say that any other way than that.
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah. It triggers them, It's just, I think, why a lot of them didn't like Hillary Clinton. Same thing. Well, it's that. Good.
Go ahead. We're gonna.
No, I was saying it's just that thing in that space where they've all kind of gotten, browbeaten a little too much by the ladies in their life, and they're frustrated.
Well, let's dive into some actually useful information instead of just me bitching and moaning.
I'm just going to say AI is a lot to fucking blame for, man.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Shaun, but before we get into the prime subject of today, you were jamming out your list of everything you're kind of involved with Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah. My grubby fingers are in many pies, man.
I'm telling you, dude, you're like all over the place. I love it. And let me tell you this. Between everything that's happening in Bitcoin world right now, ordinals, inscriptions, all that shit, right? And my ongoing conversations with you and some of the work I'm doing, I find myself often coming back to, the market's shit. Maybe I should just pile my efforts all the way into Bitcoin. I'm not there yet, but I will tell you that I often, and I don't think it's a Bitcoin maximalist thing for me. It's more of a what's the best interest of money right now, and that is you're having some.
Maybe I'll tell you like a little bit about this ridiculous little company here. which keeps changing names all the time. I think the current, we've loads of different companies, but a little bit about us. So there's 5 of us on payroll, full time. I would say working, but that would be a stretch. So there's 5 people getting paid every month. Okay.
Was that picture of your meeting you posted the other day?
No, probably not. And then we use a bunch of contractors the people who actually do the work. Okay. So, I mean, the prime things we do, we were a mining business forever. We're back into it. We have a little bit of mining capacity in Texas. We're hoping to have some up and running in Finland in about 6 weeks.
Nice.
And we're building a big one, which is part of a Bitcoin citadel, believe it or believe it not, out in the Dublin Mountains. But that's probably a year away.
Wait, a Bitcoin citadel?
Literally a Bitcoin compound.
Wow, really?
Yeah. We bought the land last year, and
like where people live.
Well, eventually, yeah.
Dude,
Fort Bitcoin.
Seriously?
Yeah. As long as they bend the knee to King Shaun every fucking morning.
There you go. There you go.
Karen, get the bags packed. We're going to Ireland.
Super decentralized.
That's it. So what do we do? Well, like primarily we were miners who became traders because we decided to mine Ethereum at one point and then gave up. We do market making. We'd be one of the top crypto native market makers in terms of volume. We only operate in one exchange currently, but we do minimum $30 billion a year in volume. Nice. Which again, that's not 30 billion in profit. I need to put that straight out there. Okay, that's $30 billion in trade volume.
That's still fantastic, though.
Yeah, I mean, for the little kind of crew we are, it's not bad. We're happy with it, and a lot of that's just linked to how much, since we're making the market, how much volume is in the market, which sucks.
Are all these people, real quickly, are all these people that you've known for a long time, or people you've just kind of hired as you needed different?
But anybody who's on payroll, i.e. doesn't actually work, we've stuck together for, like quarter of a century, yeah.
Wow, nice.
In other ventures and blah. Yeah, so that's it. What else do we do? We do long-term trading, obviously. We invest in Bitcoin startups. We've just started to kind of throw a few sats at people who have good marketing ideas behind Bitcoin. The principle
got a whole commercial being filmed for that, right?
Yeah, there's some people here in Dublin, and again, they definitely don't work for me. They certainly wouldn't want to work for me. But we kind of sat down and kind of went, look, we think this is a really cool thing. We'd some ideas on how to promote Bitcoin. And the basic premise was, look, we can all sit here and go, shit, Bitcoin's boring and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's pointless, yeah? The basic premise was, if Bitcoin was Coca-Cola, how would you advertise it to my aunt? Yeah, like, keep it simple and so on. So that's kind of good, I mean, like, we enjoy that and the results of that. So, like, we just throw... We've 2 Bitcoin charities down in Africa helping street kids, nice. And we might, and we're very slightly involved with a charity here in Ireland. And what are we adding there is really we're trying to find these ways using Bitcoin for these places to be self-sufficient, i.e., they're not going out begging for charity. Is there a way that we can structure something that will make these kind of charities self-sufficient? Jesus, what else do we drink a lot of beer first Thursday of every month in McDade's and several times in between. That would kind of sum up what we're at.
Talk to me quickly. I know you're invested in Shilling. Shilling Mining, which is the one that takes the excess energy at spots throughout Ireland and turns and installs Bitcoin mining rigs there. Are there other startups in Bitcoin that you're invested in?
We are. I won't shill them or name them, because what I will do, however, is speak.
Can you tell me their categories or kinds of things they do?
they would be I'm giving it away because Ireland is such a small place.
Oh, okay.
Let's just say that they would be in kind of layered Bitcoin applications.
Okay.
And they could all go to zero tomorrow. Obviously, I don't think they will, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I will try and get, and they're not ready for any public profile, but I will talk to them and see will they come on the show and tell you what they're at. Some of them are areas you'd be very well familiar with in DeFi world, but done, I believe, in a more secure way.
Nice. And when you say layered, is this like, I don't want the details, obviously, but like, is this like layered, like stacks layered or sovereign layered, or a different way of layering?
As in utilizing the Bitcoin chain to build a business around.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So we've thrown a few sats over the years at Bitcoin core developers or whatever, but sure. I mean, everybody does that, but like there's no active engagement there. We do have a couple of little things where if they work out, they work out. A lot of it as well, is more to do with you can call like the advertising thing and some of the other stuff that we're looking at. You could almost call it shilling our bags. It's not really. Bitcoin's been really fucking good to us.
Sure.
We are true believers.
Yeah.
And so,
well, the nice thing is that it aligns, right? The more people you get using Bitcoin, the better it is for your bag, but you have a true belief in what Bitcoin could do. And so that's why you do it.
Yeah. So that's the kind of nonsense that we get up to. I mean, we're a very casual little business. We've known each other for fucking ever. And so far so good. We could lose it all tomorrow, dude. It's always a way in this game.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm putting the screen up, and the purpose of the conversation today was when I want to make this right. Essentially, that win isn't the important thing.
Yeah, but because it's something that, and I do actually listen to what people say, although it doesn't feel like it at the time. But I genuinely do. So if there's a comment, I tend, being slow and dyslexic, have to read it 5 times and go back and think about it. And one of the consistent comments when I do my lines on a chart is when is all that matters. And I'm going to be completely counter that and say when doesn't matter at all. Okay. But just before that, there was something again that I had a bug up my ass about as normal, which is people talking about this bear market. And if it wasn't for Do Kwon and 3AC and SPF and soon to be CZ, that we'd be at 57 billion at this point. Okay, so this chart, it should be rather informative because this chart, there's Michael.
Michael says, "This guy again."
That guy owes me a fucking beer. Anyway.
We have old Michael. Get off my lawn.
Well, could you imagine if we were having a beer, 2 angry old men? So this is a simple chart of the Nasdaq in orangey color and Bitcoin in blue. Obviously, I hadn't thought that through, otherwise I would have swapped the colors. And what you can see since the top of the market, all that time ago, back in November, is that basically it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people who believe that this market was destroyed by Do Kwon and 3AC must also be living in a world where they destroyed TradFi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just not true. Okay. Yeah. So now the interesting thing here actually is that what you look in these things is not the absolute movement. You're looking for, are they directionally the same? Yeah. So you can see all the way down, it's been directionally the same, with one exception up to recently, which is the FTX crash. So the smallest of all the moves down, despite the fact of how much shit SBF rightly gets, was that the only time we have had a directional difference where Bitcoin is going down and TradFi is going up was actually, yes, the FTX crash. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Until now. Okay. So if you look at what's happened since May of this year, there is very clearly a massive directional divergence between Bitcoin representing crypto and NASDAQ representing TradFi, okay, of extraordinary proportions, okay?
Never before seen.
Not in this one. You go
Not
back.
that level.
Yeah, like you can go back. We've been pretty much the same, more or less directionally, since COVID, which I would argue is when the GBTC cash and carry trade actually sucked all of TradFi in and was probably 90% of the reason we pumped so high. But anyway, that's kind of a different view. But my point about this is that when we're, and the reason I said is, looking at CT and everybody going, because we've all been trained to watch FOMC meetings and worry about this, that, and the other. And I'm going to go, look, we're so fucking decoupled from TradFi right now that none of that actually matters anymore, clearly. Yes?
Right.
Okay. And the reason that we're decoupled is multitude, but there's too much existential risk in this game right now for TradFi players to be involved into the same level. There will always be some TradFi, yeah?
Sure.
But all of this is this, again, constant draining of liquidity I keep bullshitting on about. The final straw was actually the most liquid exchange on the planet for this stuff, Binance, coming under this, and basically since then we're on a divergence. So I think, again, to get into this, uber bear that I am, which I would say this is well signaled all the time by liquidity being pulled out, and that I think the final nail in the coffin in terms of liquidity is being driven into the coffin right now, as in TradFi has fucked off. Yeah.
Yep.
You can see it in all the money that's continuing to bleed out despite all of these, tether printings and so on that people see. Net, we're still down. And the real evidence, other than the depth of the order books and so on, is that we are just on a unbelievable directional divergence, which has only happened once in the last few years, and that was the FTX wind up.
Wouldn't you say, not necessarily Do Kwon, but obviously the FTX, the regulatory stuff, those are all things that have driven those TradFi people away for now, wouldn't you say?
Well, I think if we look at the hard data, the only one that counted was FTX.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we had some internal hedge funds blow up. Yeah, I mean,
that's from that too.
I mean, that's something else we do. We used to trade for these hedge funds till they all went fucking bankrupt. But that's okay. Yeah, so I forgot about that. That was laughable.
So it's a cascading of series events, basically coming off of the FTX stuff and just getting worse with the news as.
Yeah, I'm just saying we should be realistic with ourselves when we're looking for people to blame. Yeah. And go, if this was just a sequence of crypto black swans, which it was, we would have seen directional divergence from TradFi, which we have not seen in any way, shape, or form, with the exception of the FTX crash, which, by the way, the divergence was transient and not that large.
Right.
And when you look at that divergence now, you can see all the degens are off trading AI fucking plays, and we've been abandoned. We're left in our own little fucking pool of misery.
That's uplifting.
No, I'm going to come to the good news. Okay, there is always fucking good news. Okay?
Excellent.
So on my thesis again of why it doesn't matter, okay, is this simple. There's a couple of things I really have to say here, which I've been spoofing on about forever and ever, and I'm going, look, okay, you could pick all these levels, of where Bitcoin made a decision. It's really simple, Nothing to see here, nothing complicated whatsoever, okay?
This is a 1 month chart.
These are monthly. We could do weekly or monthly is just fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the levels couldn't be clearer, and they're uber fucking reliable. Yeah. If you want to be a bull, you're up here. Yeah. Okay. these are the only things that count. The amount of time it takes to hit these levels and make a decision is completely fucking irrelevant. So if you're looking as an investor or a trader, the fact that it has taken 1, 2, 3 months to reject from this is meaningless.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that matters as a trader or investor is entry price and exit price. Yeah.
Right.
So people mistakenly, in my opinion, or the way I read markets and the way we look at markets, think that price is a function of time. And I'm going, no, price is a function of price, actually.
Makes sense.
So that was kind of my point about this. So I'm going, no, that there's a very valid point to be saying, well, how do you know it stops here versus here? But you 2 months to look at the data, see what we're accumulating, not accumulating at this level, and make your call. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But the when, as an investor or a trader, is kind of meaningless, because as an investor and a trader, what really matters is price in, price out. Yeah. The difference between those two, hopefully in your favor, is what determines your P&L ultimately on any trade or any position.
Sure. Makes sense.
And if you go back, the good old bad old days, back here, you can spend a year before finding the price level. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would still have been right to wait for the level rather than some random thing about time. So that was kind of what I wanted.
That's awesome. No, I really I think that's a great perspective for people to be thinking about here. And it's like, look, if you can understand how these levels work, then when it happens is irrelevant. It's when it happens, and that's where you have to have your decision points if that's how you want to trade.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I would say is, there's this slight nonsense, which is maybe counter against some other things I've said, but I want to say, well, if Bitcoin's going to 1 million, does it really matter if I buy it at 20,000 and 10,000? The answer is yes and no, but mostly no. Let me give you the simple math for that. Yeah. I have 100 grand to invest in Bitcoin. At 20K, I can buy 5 Bitcoin. Okay. And at 10K, I can buy 10 Bitcoin. My end result is 5 million or 10 million. So yeah, it kind of does fucking matter.
It does. It does after all matter.
Yeah, and so like if you're not into playing the level game, the way you get out of that, like if you don't want to invest the time learning price movement and levels, okay, you simply switch on the DCA, and you'll probably end up, if the price is oscillating between 10 and 20, you'll end up at 15, which is still better than 20.
There you go. Absolutely.
And yeah, look, sure, you could take your 100 grand and make 5 million and you'd be really fucking happy, but you'd be an awful lot more happier if you took your 100 grand and made 10 million. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Or if you TCA'd, made 15 million, throwing numbers off the back of a beer mat here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Niblet said, my crude understanding of Shaun's win negative strats to some degree depends on the majority of other traders chasing what they think win is. That's the source of volatility. No?
Okay, so this is another concept I'm going to completely this idea
of.
Yeah, no. Again, these are all opinions. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So here's what I'm going to say. People think that sentiment on Twitter and retail have any influence whatsoever over price. Do not understand what's happening. Okay, maybe on some low market cap shitcoin, that nobody cares about it. Retail matter. If you think retail matter in the price of Bitcoin, you're going to get gang raped.
Ouch.
No, but it is just the truth, yeah. And I don't mean to say that in some kind of, you could have retail. I don't know if I'm retail or institutional, but I'm basically retail. Okay, so I'm going like, you can be smart retail, but thinking that retail ticked the price of a $500 billion asset, okay, based on sentiment derived from Twitter is utter fucking nonsense.
And when you
No,
say
but
that
I mean,
out loud,
it
when you say
doesn't
that out
stand
loud,
up to any rational analysis whatsoever. Okay.
yeah, when you say all of those words together out loud, it makes it sound completely irrational. Absolutely. That's great.
It is, but we're always looking. I mean, you know, Fred, God bless him, over the years I've known him, has come up with some absolutely fucking brilliant statements and observations. And I think his best one was price set sentiment, not the other way around. Yeah.
Right. Right.
So,
Makes sense.
you know, so again, you know, the when bit, I'm kind of going, I don't understand in any way that when determines the ultimate price. Okay. I do not in any way accept that retail sentiment determines price levels. And I do 100% know that price levels are determined by a bunch of factors, but most easily determined by the left-hand side of the chart. And when there is no left-hand side of the chart, which is the bull run, they're determined by other factors, which are easy to do. But we're in a bear market, so the levels that are going to be hit will be determined by hitting historical levels. I mean, it's so obvious in the fucking chart, yeah? I mean, anybody who doesn't, you can argue why. I'm not even interested in the why, but anybody who doesn't understand this, and I've been posting even my little shitcoin charts every week for some reason, and everything respects high time frame levels, yeah?
Right.
And it's just a fact, yeah?
It's really hard to argue with when you chart it that way. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so what I would suggest for people's own good, you know, is that, you know, forget this when, you know, because the current when narrative is happening, and I have a bit to say about that as ever. Okay.
Awesome.
And look, here's the thing about this. So anyway, I would just suggest to people, and again, I've no axe to grind here, just to be clear. Okay, I like everybody in the community, even though you're all shitcoiners. Joking. Okay, I do like you all, by the way. Okay, and any of this bullshit wisdom that I may have picked up was given to me freely, and I'm quite happy to give it back. And it's worked for me over the years, and maybe it can help somebody. Okay, but what I would say is levels are your friend. They're not difficult. When moon, 2032, Shizzy.
That was perfect. That was perfect.
I will take a bet with anybody that price will be higher in 2032 than it is today. Okay.
It's like a
I'm
risk
not
taker.
saying how it's getting there, but I'm telling you it'll be higher. Not financial advice. Okay.
Awesome.
So yeah,
I mean,
all I would say to people is you know, you can machinate over the whys, the wheres, and the whens, and think that it's retail who are all making decisions on these levels. They're absolutely not. Retail doesn't even look at high level levels. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they don't even think about it.
Question from Niblets there.
Do Doquan could have been the psychological primer and SBF the confirmation and thus the practical response. CZ is then the reinforcement that pulling out was right for TradFi.
I think it's even more practical than that. I think they knew the game was up, and so they've been sucking money out, and that this, and I've said this before, and price may prove me wrong, but I don't think it is. This is an exit rally in the same way this was an exit rally, and this is the last hurrah. And we got to the top, and lo and behold, this happened before all of this SEC action, yeah? Because we love to have bad people to blame.
Sure.
We had Do Kwon, we had 3AC, we had SBF, by the way, is the only guy who actually did any real fucking damage, but it was transient. And now we have the SEC, but you know, the smart money is left the building.
Yeah.
It's been leaving the building. It's, in my opinion, pumped the price up, and now it's just gone, you know, fuck this, we're going to go and play AI narratives because they're more fun and they're a hell of a lot safer.
Yeah, right. Totally agree.
And we'll try to catch that dip.
Yeah, and like you said,
you know, they will be back, because I think on a wider context, there's some really interesting stuff happening. I mean, I think this may be slightly tinfoil hat for people, but I'll give you kind of why I'm still such a mega bull on Bitcoin. I think that that there is a geopolitical game going on here between the US, Russia, and China over Bitcoin. Okay, and I specifically mean Bitcoin. So we know that Russia has started to mine Bitcoin in a fairly serious way. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And I think counter to this kind of idea that somehow this is about them accumulating Bitcoin, I don't think it is. I think that it is actually about securing their ability to transact on the network.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. Which is this kind of soft war thesis and so on. Because the amount of Bitcoin anybody can mine these days, there's only 900 new Bitcoins a day. It doesn't make sense at nation state scale to go, we want to hoover up, fucking 45 Bitcoins a day.
Yeah, it's meaningless to them.
It's meaningless. But what they can do, and again, the initial kind of genius of proof of work is that the incentive works. Yeah, they're incentivized to secure the network for themselves, but also for the network. Right. I think what we've seen in Hong Kong as of today is extremely interesting, where HK has gone to some major banks and twisted their arms to allow fiat interchange between, the exchanges that are applying for regulatory approval in Hong Kong and the banks. Okay, that gives China. Yeah. So HSBC, et cetera, were all leaned on, I think, yesterday or today by Hong Kong, so that and I should step back. I fucking love crypto Twitter. It so entertains me. There was the 1st of June narrative that basically everybody in China was going to start buying crypto. Yeah. Yep. The actual story was on the 1st of June, okay, crypto businesses and exchanges could apply for a license to operate out of Hong Kong. Okay, right. These are worlds apart. Okay, and as of today, or could have been this morning or whatever, Hong Kong has leaned on, some of the big banks, HSBC and so on, and said, you will provide fiat gateways to these exchanges. Okay, this becomes a very interesting, in my opinion, geopolitical play from China, which is nothing to do with crypto or this, that, and the other. It's the ability to transact the fundamental trustless asset, which is Bitcoin. Okay?
Right.
And I think the US play is so fucking apparent, and I actually think quite smart, if not incredibly fucking painful, which is you're all going to be trading Bitcoin via BlackRock, Fidelity, and so on and so on. Yeah?
Right.
And that gives them... And I do think we're in this kind of weird place, and again, you can call this tinfoil hat, but I think everything racks up where we have nation states fight over scarce resources. We have since the dawn of time, and I think we're seeing geopolitical games being danced here around the scarcest resource on the planet, which is Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't find that difficult to believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's very plausible. It's very positive effect for Bitcoin price, one would think. Increased demand, competition should drive price up, scarcity of resource. I mean, all of it aligns.
And I think why did them? I'm not saying the nation states are going to do anything now, but I think a lot of this comes down to what happened with Russia and their foreign reserves being traded. So in an increasingly trustless world, okay, the trading of commodities interblock requires Bitcoin.
Right.
And there's big arguments saying the liquidity isn't there in Bitcoin to do that. And I agree, but there's also the argument that even when it happens, and I do think it's 5 to 10 years away, by the way, that it automatically creates the liquidity. So I do think that, that if you stood back and look at the actions of the US, Russia, and the CCP in those terms, that, maybe I'm not completely fucking paranoid or maybe my tinfoil hat might be right, but I do think it's worth considering.
That's really, that's very interesting, buddy. You're just trying to persuade me to become a maxi. I can see that now.
Well, and I don't consider it very tinfoil at all, dude. I consider it like zero.
I don't either.
Tinfoil.
That's a very logical, rational thesis.
That's not crazy. That ain't like
I
alien
must thank,
being shit to
must
the
thank
head.
whoever gave it to me then, because if that no, but I seriously, like, I have huge, because like all I'm going to do here is tell you how fucked the market is right now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to repeat it. I'm just going, this is just more evidence of the boring fucking gobshite maxi that is Shaun going, no, we're fucked. We're really fucked. Yeah. But we're only fucked for so long, or till, should I say, until a certain price level, because I think what we are seeing is the dance for the next bull market is at a completely different level than we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that whenever the next bull market takes off, I think strap in, and I have some kind of longer term TA to support that thesis, as to again, because look, I'm in the sub 10K camp. I could be right, could be wrong. I don't really care. I said we'll hit the levels going down one at a time, and I'll make a call of how things look at each of the levels, and that's the way I trade it. And when it happens, But
I love that, dude. That is friggin' brilliant.
yeah, I mean that's the way traders trade. Not to be. I mean, because why? Because it's the only fucking reliable way to trade. Yeah.
Yeah.
Draw the levels on the line, chart, and go. If it gets here, how do all the other factors I might look at decide? Do I close my shorts? Do I buy? Am I buying long term? Am I buying for a bounce? But you know, when is a complete fucking irrelevance?
Yeah, but this geopolitical theory is very, very interesting. I really like it.
You know why I find it so interesting is because, you know, there's an assumption that we make in it, and I think you said it earlier, Shaun, is that, and it's about patience, you know, waiting for it to come back, you know, waiting for the price of Bitcoin to come back. Now, I sort of remember playing that game with patience back at the end of the .com days, and there was shit that just flat out, you know, never came back. But when we talk about the geopolitical strategy stuff and, you know, the whole dynamic that we just discussed, you know, for me, that is such an anchor on, you know, on demand coming back and price coming back, that really supports your patience argument.
Yeah, my you know, because I'm always a fucking bear, and I've been right to be a bear, yeah, and my thesis is that I'll right to continue to be a bear until some of my levels are hit, and if some of my upper levels are hit, then I go, I was wrong that bit of the bear market, and that's okay. Yeah, I'm not going to get stressed about it, yeah.
Yeah.
But my fundamental thesis on Bitcoin is always long-term bullish, always has been. And I have no reason to change it. In fact, I do see the next 3 cycles as being the cycles that produce the maximum returns for investors. So even the idiots like me who were in back in the day, I think the next 12 years or 15 years or 20 years or whatever it takes is going to outstrip that in terms of percentage returns. And I genuinely believe that.
Interesting. Well, you're certainly making the case to, as Brad said earlier, you know, I'm sharing his feelings too, that, you know, it's sort of like from a time management perspective, an efficiency perspective, and everything perspective, you know, maybe the game is just playing BTC.
Yeah.
Again, look, I made my decisions, and I will. Now, what I'll say about shitcoins, and again, I'm lovingly calling them shitcoins, okay? Because you know, most of my friends are also shitcoiners, yeah.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, okay, I'm not. I think they're fun. I think they're all
like some of my best friends are shitcoiners.
I think they're all fundamentally completely valueless. Okay, I think all BRC20s are completely pointless and valueless. But can you make money on them? Yeah,
sure.
It doesn't have to make sense to make money. Yeah, you just have to know when to get in and when to get out. Okay.
Here we go. So, real quick, Shizzy said the Matic drop was definitely smart money dumping. Niblet says, "Is Shaun talking about when?" And Shizzy said, "I think he is laughing out loud. In crypto, it's WEN when."
I don't speak crypto bro language, dude.
Shizzy said, "Fashion question for Shaun: does he wear pants or only shorts?"
Okay, so I got to answer that. And first of all, pants have a completely fucking different meaning in this part of the world than they do over there.
Ah,
We call them trousers, sir. Yes, pants are what you
trousers.
call underwear. And in my normal day-to-day activities,
Really?
I am totally SPF, beanbag, t-shirt, shorts. That's me.
Same.
When I enter out into the real world, I do not inflict that on humanity. I wear trousers.
Here's the real question.
You know,
You fit the European stereotype. Flip-flops or sandals, and do you wear socks?
I wear cowboy boots when I go out.
Oh,
excellent.
wow.
It's the Texan in me, man. Yeah.
That's interesting. I grew up there and I haven't had a pair of cowboy boots in a long time.
To be honest, I wore cowboy boots long before I moved to Texas.
Nice. That's a
good
signature look.
Doc Martens or cowboy boots, man. That's
a good signature look. Hey, you had another theory what I got excited about the other day, your Ethereum bull case theory.
Yeah, okay. So there is a bull case for Ethereum from my perspective. I know everybody can have their own bull case, but and again, I'm going to say, to me, it's a shit coin. That doesn't mean you can't make money. I mean, to me, it's basically, what's this thing they call them? Virtual machines. No, they're virtual scientific calculators from the 1980s. That's really it. Yeah. Okay, fine. We can disagree on that. Okay. But will the price go up next bull run? Almost certainly. But can the price outperform? And here's my thesis is that if the US is generally going to kill crypto native trading, okay, then what will probably happen is that the DEX world is denominated in ETH. So if you can go off to Fidelity, buy your ETH, you can go off and play your shitcoin games on these DEXs, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. And so if you look at the what has pumped ETH historically was ICOs, you needed ETH to play ICOs. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So there was a demand for ETH. Okay. You needed ETH, by and large, to play the DeFi game, which we had last cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what's the next Ponzi-onomics for Ethereum? Probably you need ETH if the US continues down its current course, okay, to even be able to trade.
Nice.
And so that's kind of my thinking about it. Maybe some of these BRC20 kids will make it Bitcoin or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying I do think there is a bull narrative for Ethereum, but I'm still going to say Vitalik is next. And I know people think I'm joking. I'll tell you, dude, history will prove me right on that character. But, is Ethereum going to go up if there's an next bull run? 100% is going to go up if there's an next bull run, yeah? Okay. The question is it going to outperform Bitcoin? I don't know, but here's a situation where it could.
That's interesting. I think that's a really interesting take on it. I really do. You've got your bottom line on what, 13? Or
no. 13.8 for me, and again, this is not financial advice, is as good as it gets.
Do you have a line at in your other charts at like 10.7?
So again, let's pick the levels. Yeah, you've got kind of a level here which is 10.7. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You've got the classic kind of 6K level. Again, these are not complicated. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, 13.8 was always
the big break.
To me, and again, price could prove me wrong or things can change, but for me, 13.8 was always the best case for the bulls.
Got it. Yeah,
okay.
Makes sense.
And you can see, again, how well are these levels respected? 2019 top to the fucking dollar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. COVID crash held on a monthly level. Yeah. So these levels are not complicated on a monthly close basis. So, if I'm right, we have to take this. Yeah. So we can measure and how it does. And again, the other thing I'll say, we will bounce off these supports. We very rarely just cut through them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll be looking at, order flow and blah, blah, blah. But I think I retain my view that this is the 13.8 is the best case for the bottom. Not financial advice. I can be completely wrong about that. But it is the conviction I have. Yeah.
Yeah. Chuck says, I think for all practical purposes, Ethereum is the same tech vintage as BTC. They both lack tech parts to really easily build on. If something besides BTC wins for tech, I doubt it's a DLT, distributed ledger technology like ETH.
But again, this comes down to the simple view. As I'm going, like, I don't view Bitcoin as a technology project. Yeah, I genuinely don't. I think it's a project that that uses some technology, and I think that ETH is a project that abuses technology to create Ponzi-onomics, but that's just a personal view, yeah. And again, all the capability of a 1980s scientific calculator running on Amazon.
Got it.
Well, I shut up about that now.
Shizzy, I'm not going to go there. Shizzy says NFT and layer 2 that need to hold ETH will also pump the price. I feel like crypto gaming is the next onboarding for Ethereum.
Dude, again, I've said this a few times, and again, I don't, I'm not trying to discourage anybody, or maybe I just don't fucking know. What I do know is historically, you wait for the narrative to develop during the bull run if your interest is in making money, okay? And the first and fastest horses out the gate jump on the fuckers, and who gives a shit what they are?
Yeah, right, exactly. Chuck says, right, BTC is not a tech project, which leaves a vacuum because ETH is not the final/best answer either.
Yeah, I agree with Chuck. Like, I do think a decentralized app platform would be fucking fantastic. Yeah, again, I was a big supporter of Ethereum before I really looked at it deeply, as in the objective of Ethereum on the narrative that I bought into, which was the world computer. I'm going, yeah, you should, if we can have a platform where you can run whatever the fuck you want to run and nobody can stop it, and there's no Ponzi-onomics, and it's just basically, then yeah, sure, that's a wonderful thing for the world. Yeah, I don't think that's what ETH is. I think it's diverging from that vision, and we can agree to differ on that. That's just an opinion.
Awesome. I think that makes sense. All right. Would you have any other words of wisdom you'd like to impart today, Shaun?
No, dude. Again, I was kind of thinking about it and kind of going, first of all, the amount of cope out there, which when we're wrong about a market, and God knows I'm wrong about the market often enough, it's on you. Yeah. Yep. And I don't mean this to any of our, this whole, we'd be at 58K if it wasn't for Do Kwon. It's just factually not correct. Yeah. Yeah. And I did want to just kind of put forward a thesis, and I'm really happy to debate this with people in the Telegram channel. It's only my thesis that levels far greater than time. Time does not matter.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, recursive ordinals. Yeah. Sorry. That's Shivsy. Look, if you have 5 minutes, I can honestly tell you my view of ordinals, or we can save it till next week.
Go for it if you want.
Okay, so first of all, I've looked at these BRC20s, and I think, look, I'm going to preempt this thing. Do whatever you want on the chain that the chain allows, yeah?
Yes.
And you won't be able to do anything on the chain that it doesn't allow. So if you can do it on the chain, fucking good luck to you, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a couple of incredibly dangerous fake narratives. Okay. One of them is that this is giving access to this deep liquidity on Bitcoin. Bollocks. It's just the $500 billion or whatever the fucking number is of liquidity on Bitcoin is not in any way made available to whatever data storage you put on the chain. Yeah. Just isn't. It's not. So it's these narratives that worry me because they take life of their own and nobody questions them. We go, no, the liquidity is not available whatsoever at all. If a Bitcoiner decides to spend some of his money on a shitcoin, they would have done it already. Yeah.
Right.
They could have moved it. So, this idea that this $500 billion of liquidity is available, it's just not. It's not available. There's no even real way to access it, but I'll put that aside. BRC20s, look, it's memcoin season. Yeah, they're functionless stuff. I love the excitement about recursive ordinals, but let's be clear what that is. Yeah, it's just an index.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
whoopee fucking do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to be like, maybe somebody will find something useful with ordinals and recursive ordinals or whatever. And fair play to you. Yeah. I've seen nothing whatsoever that interests me. I've seen nothing that concerns me. I am really anti the narratives of, this is saving mining. That's utter nonsense. This is accessing Bitcoin liquidity. This is utter nonsense. This is, bringing development to Bitcoin. That is utter nonsense. We're going to propose.
I disagree with that one.
Well, it's okay to be wrong, dude. This is, we're going to get, atomic swaps on the base.
No. I don't mean
it's utter nonsense.
When I say when I say bringing development to Bitcoin, I don't mean anything related to changing anything core. That's not what I said when I'm talking about. I'm talking about bringing enthusiastic developers to the Bitcoin ecosystem to build things on top of what is possible. That's
okay. So can I tell you why that is to me of absolutely no interest whatsoever? Okay,
sure.
Because what you have are people from shitcoin land who are developers in there who have, and again we can disagree, but this is honestly built nothing of any value whatsoever on technically more capable platforms than Bitcoin, and come over and are going to do what exactly in terms of fundamental value? I bet no. I don't have a horse in the race, so it's not a question of betting or not. I'm going, look, maybe somebody will figure out that using an indexed file storage system and treating Bitcoin like a hard drive has some value. I don't know. I don't see it.
Well, let me just quickly say that in my career, the things that weren't obvious were the things that were most innovative. So what I would say is it's very early days with people experimenting with these things that are possible on Bitcoin now. And the other thing,
they were always possible. It's been possible for 5 years.
Right. I understand that. I'm saying the awareness of it. And the other thing I would say is the functionality that may or may not be built around it by developers coming to Bitcoin to build and make use of those things, may not be functionality that is necessarily part of Bitcoin's primary mission, but those things will be irrelevant to people that might want to use them. And so from my perspective, the development activity around Bitcoin can be a very good thing for Bitcoin if it drives people to use and make use of Bitcoin. So,
okay, but you see, there's my concern is not the thing. I don't actually have a concern about it, yeah, other than people getting scammed.
Sure,
okay,
of course.
So I just hear. So maybe I'm so sensitive to narrative, okay. And I'm going to support your case, by the way, at the end of this, okay, just to be clear. So I'm neither. So first of all, we're saying we broke Bitcoin. You fucking didn't. Narrative, yeah. Right. We're rescuing miners. You fucking didn't. Narrative, yeah.
Right.
We're going to access the deep liquidity on Bitcoin. You aren't. Fucking narrative, yeah.
Yes.
However, and then I look at the developers and say, well, you've done nothing of any real value with technically more capable shit, in terms of functionally capable than on Bitcoin. So why would I believe that any of these developers are going to produce anything better than they've already produced? My opinion, okay?
Right.
However, I would also say there's only 3 things a computer can technically do, and or not, yeah? And then I look at ChatGPT and I go, that's pretty fucking powerful for and or not, isn't it?
Exactly my point. Thank you.
Yeah. So I again, I'm not anti them. I'm anti grift. I fucking hate grift.
Sure.
And I see, and maybe it's just because I don't follow anybody in the ordinal space whatsoever. Maybe I will one day. I mean, I've unfollowed a few people like Udi to start with, not because I'm anti-UDI. I've always been quite pro-UDI, kind of have been, but he's a liar. He's lied a lot, and he's been very manipulative recently. And I go, look, I don't need that shit in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Have we shit the bed again?
Nick Niblet says, I just looked at today's charts. Holy crap, we shit the bed again. I guess. I mean, we're at under 25 right now. So,
I just zoom out, dude. Zoom out.
Exactly.
Maybe next week we'll do the halvening, because I do want to say why I think the halvening is meaningless this time. And I'm not suggesting there isn't going to be another bull run. As I said, I think the next 3 bull runs cumulatively will be far fucking larger than the last 3. And I could explain why, but that's it. Unless, I don't want to take up everybody's time.
Let's do the next one.
Yeah.
Ace, thanks for joining us, buddy. He says Max Payne's still ahead. He said ordinals are just a cash grab, laughing out loud. No one will be talking about them by 2024. I don't know if I go that far, but it's interesting. Niblet says, excellent point. Indices are not recursion, so a misnomer at best.
Fair enough. Yep.
Shizzy says, I think the election is a bigger deal than the halving. You mean as it impacts Bitcoin?
I think Shizzy's point there is there's lots of things that happened in the same 4-year cycle. You could go, very simply, what happens in 4-year cycles: Olympics, US presidential elections, Chinese debt cycle, okay? Yeah. And Bitcoin halvening. So maybe there's more to this than meets the eye.
Niblet says, sorry, my BTC is Canto threatening 10 cents. Oh, it's getting into Shaun's range. Are you going to start?
Yeah, I'll post it. I'll do my weekly update in the channel. But here's my problem: Canto shouldn't be threatening this unless, right now, in my opinion, unless Bitcoin was like down below 20K. That's and I've plenty of time. Again, look, I'm going to take some punts. I am very afraid of what happens to the shitcoin market if Binance.com runs into trouble, because the reduction of liquidity there could be horrendous. Yeah. So, and I'm in no rush, because I don't think the bear market is going to end anytime soon. Yeah. So, let it print.
Yeah. Shizzy says, I don't like Ace. Laughing out loud. Just kidding. Ace says, laughing out loud. Niblet says, time to liquidate some LP soon and trade note for Canto. Yeah, I'm going to dip in.
I each of those words I understood. It's the sequence that I fucking completely lost with.
Ace says, have had my B&B shorts in since 3:30. Nice.
You're a fucking legend, nice. Ace. You're a legend, Ace.
Do you know Ace?
No, I don't recognize the handle.
All right. He said Binance is on its last leg. You guys are like kindred spirits, I think.
Maybe Ace is my alter ego.
Or
maybe I'm Ace's alter ego.
Okay, I got one more thing. And I have to tell you, Shaun, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't let me know you were in town, but Joe sent me over this video. This is at Destin, Florida beach. We had a bear in the ocean and then walked up on the beach. And so Joe is basically saying that you were in town and you didn't bother to come visit.
Well, I tell you one thing: the weather over here, I'd be in that ocean. I wouldn't be getting out.
Shaun, as always, an awesome, educational, interesting show. Really, dude, I can't thank you enough for all the time you give.
NFA and everything. Mostly I do wrong, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Nah, you're brilliant, and we appreciate it, and always glad to have you. Always glad to have you here, buddy. Thank you so much. Joe, hope you have a great afternoon. Everybody listening, join our Telegram, t.me/mission DeFi, t.me/mission DeFi. You can have direct access to this brilliant man whenever you want. He'll just chat with you all night long. I don't think he actually sleeps. And thank you to everyone listening and watching. Thank you, Ace. Thank you, Shizzy. Thank you, Niblets. Thank you, Chuck. All of you, we appreciate your commentary, your help. Michael, thank you. Get off my fucking lawn. And we'll see everybody on Monday. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate and review us. It helps boost us. on YouTube, please click the thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed and click the little bell so you get alerted when new episodes come out. We'll talk to everyone. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Joe, have a great one, buddy.
You too, buddy. And thanks a lot, Shaun. We'll talk to you soon.